You've been working your entire life. But do you actually know where every single dollar ends up? Most people think they're doing okay with money. They pay their bills, maybe save a little, treat themselves on weekends, and tell themselves they'll get serious about money later. But when you actually put the average person's financial life into cold, hard numbers, it's a wake-up call that most people are not prepared for. Let's start with income, because everything begins here. The median household income in the United States sits at around $74,000 per year. That sounds decent, right? That's over $6,000 a month coming in. On paper, that feels like enough to build a comfortable life, save seriously, and maybe even invest for the future. But here's where it gets interesting and a little uncomfortable. That $74,000 doesn't actually mean $74,000 in your pocket. After federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare deductions, the average American household takes home somewhere between $54,000 and $58,000 per year. That's nearly $16,000 to $20,000 gone before you even see your paycheck. Gone before you buy groceries. Gone before you pay rent. Gone before you do anything at all. That brings your real monthly take-home to roughly $4,500 to $4,800. Now, the number doesn't look as impressive, does it? So you're bringing home around $4,500 to $4,800 every single month. Now let's see where that money actually goes, because this is where most people's financial plans quietly fall apart. The single biggest expense for the average person is housing. According to recent data, Americans spend roughly 30 to 35% of their take-home income on rent or mortgage payments alone. That's anywhere from $1,350 to $1,680 every month, just to keep a roof over their head. And in major cities like New York, Los Angeles, or San Francisco, that number climbs even higher, sometimes eating up 50% or more of monthly income. Next comes transportation. The average American spends around $1,000 to $1,200 per month on car payments, insurance, fuel, maintenance, and parking combined. Most people don't add all of these up together. They think about each cost separately, which makes it feel smaller than it really is. But when you stack every transportation cost on top of each other, it becomes the second largest expense in the average household budget, sometimes even competing with housing. Then comes food. The average American household spends close to $600 to $800 per month on food. That includes groceries and dining out. And here's the thing. Dining out alone accounts for nearly 40% of that food budget. That's hundreds of dollars every month spent on convenience and comfort eating. So just with housing, transport, and food, 3 categories, the average person has already spent between $2,950 and $3,680 of their $4,500 take-home pay. So after housing, transportation, and food, the average person has somewhere between $820 and $1,550 left over every single month. That might sound like a reasonable cushion, but don't get comfortable yet, because there are still several major expenses waiting to take their share. First, let's talk about utilities and bills. Electricity, gas, water, internet, and phone together cost the average American household around $400 to $500 per month. These are the bills that people rarely think about because they're automatic. They just get paid in the background without much attention. But $400 to $500 every month is money that quietly disappears without giving you anything to show for it. Then there's insurance. Health insurance premiums for the average American family cost around $400 to $600 per month. And that's just the premium, before any copays, deductibles, or out-of-pocket medical expenses hit you. For individuals, it's lower, but still a significant chunk. Life insurance, renters, or homeowners insurance adds another $100 to $200 on top of that. Now subtract all of that from what was remaining. After utilities and insurance, the average person is left with somewhere between negative $150 and positive $650 per month. Some households are already in the negative at this point, and they haven't even touched subscriptions, clothing, personal care, or entertainment yet. This is the moment where most people stop tracking and just swipe the card, because the numbers become too uncomfortable to look at directly. Now let's talk about the expenses that most people completely underestimate. The ones that feel small in the moment, but add up to something truly shocking by the end of the month. Subscriptions. The average American pays for anywhere between 4 to 7 subscription services at any given time. Netflix, Spotify, Amazon Prime, Hulu, Disney Plus, gym memberships, meal kit deliveries, cloud storage, the list goes on. Individually, each one feels like nothing. $8 here, $15 there. But when you add them all up, the average person is spending between $200 and $350 per month on subscriptions alone. And studies show that nearly 40% of people are paying for at least one subscription they completely forgot they signed up for. Then comes clothing and personal care. The average American spends around $150 to $250 per month on clothing, shoes, grooming products, haircuts, skincare, and personal care items. Again, each individual purchase feels small and justified. A new shirt on sale, a haircut, a face wash. But collectively, this category silently drains another significant chunk every single month. Then there's entertainment and leisure. Concerts, movies, weekend trips, hobbies, sports events. The average household spends $200 to $300 per month in this category. And nobody feels guilty about it in the moment, because these are the purchases that feel like rewards for working hard all month. Add all of this together, and the average person has now completely wiped out whatever was left. And in many cases, they've gone beyond their income entirely without even realizing it. So here's the question that should be sitting uncomfortably in your mind right now. If the average person is spending everything they earn, or even more than they earn, what are they actually saving? The answer is brutally honest. The personal savings rate in the United States has been sitting at around 3 to 5% of income for the average household. That means on a $4,500 monthly take-home, the average person is saving somewhere between $135 and $225 per month. That's it. That's the number. Less than $225 per month being set aside for the future, for emergencies, for retirement, for financial freedom. Now let's put that into perspective. Financial experts consistently recommend saving at least 20% of your take-home income. On $4,500 per month, that would be $900 every single month going toward your future. But the average person is saving less than a quarter of that recommended amount. And it gets worse. A Federal Reserve study found that nearly 40% of Americans cannot cover an unexpected $400 emergency expense without borrowing money or selling something. Not $4,000. Not $40,000. Just $400. Nearly half the country is one small emergency away from financial panic. And yet, when you ask the average person if they think they're doing okay financially, most will say yes. Most will say they're managing. Most will say they'll start saving seriously next month, next year, after the next raise. But the numbers tell a completely different story, and the numbers never lie. Now let's talk about debt, because no conversation about the average person's financial life is complete without looking at what they owe. And this is the part that most people avoid thinking about entirely, because the numbers are genuinely frightening. The average American household carries around $101,000 in total debt. Let that number sink in for a moment. $101,000. That's money already spent, already consumed, already gone, but still being paid for, month after month, with interest stacking on top of it every single day. Let's break that debt down. The biggest piece is mortgage debt, which makes sense. Homes are expensive, and most people finance them over 15 to 30 years. But beyond mortgages, the average American carries around $6,000 to $8,000 in credit card debt alone. And credit cards are where debt becomes truly dangerous, because the average credit card interest rate in America right now sits at around 20 to 24% annually. That means if you're carrying $7,000 in credit card debt and only making minimum payments, you could end up paying back nearly double that amount over time. Then there's auto loan debt. The average car payment in America has now crossed $700 per month for new vehicles. Americans collectively owe over $1.6 trillion in auto loan debt. Student loans add another layer. The average borrower carries around $37,000 in student loan debt, with monthly payments eating further into that already stretched budget. The average person is not just earning and spending. They are simultaneously drowning in debt while trying to stay afloat. So we've talked about income, spending, savings, and debt. But there's one more financial area that reveals just how unprepared the average person truly is, and that's retirement. Because most people are not just struggling today, they are setting themselves up for a financial crisis they won't be able to escape from tomorrow. Here are the numbers. The average American between the ages of 55 and 64, people who are just one decade away from retirement, has saved an average of only $134,000 in retirement funds. That sounds like a decent number on the surface. But financial planners consistently say that to retire comfortably, the average person needs somewhere between $1 million and $1.5 million saved up. That means the average person approaching retirement age has saved less than 15% of what they actually need. Now think about what $134,000 actually buys you in retirement. If you retire at 65 and live until 85, a very realistic life expectancy, that $134,000 spread over 20 years gives you roughly $6,700 per year. That's around $558 per month to live on from your savings. Add Social Security on top of that, which averages around $1,700 per month, and the average retiree is living on approximately $2,258 per month total. But remember, earlier in this video we showed that basic expenses like housing, food, utilities, and insurance already exceed $2,500 per month for most households. That means the average person will retire and immediately be unable to cover their basic living costs. Not luxuries, not vacations, just the basics. Now here's something that rarely gets talked about in personal finance conversations, the psychological side of money. Because the average person's financial struggles are not just about math. They are deeply connected to behavior, emotion, and the way the human brain is wired to think about money. Studies in behavioral economics consistently show that human beings are naturally terrible at thinking long-term. Our brains are wired for immediate rewards. When you have to choose between enjoying $100 today or saving it for 20 years from now, your brain almost always pushes you towards spending it today. This is called present bias, and it is one of the biggest invisible forces destroying the average person's financial future without them even realizing it. Then there's something called lifestyle inflation. Every time the average person gets a raise, a bonus, or any increase in income, their spending rises to match it almost immediately. The new car, the bigger apartment, the nicer restaurants, the upgraded phone. Instead of taking that extra income and aggressively saving or investing it, the average person simply upgrades their lifestyle and ends up in exactly the same financial position as before, just with more expensive habits. There's also the comparison trap. Social media has made this dramatically worse in recent years. People are constantly exposed to highlight reels of others spending money, vacations, luxury items, expensive experiences, and feel subconscious pressure to keep up. This phenomenon, often called keeping up with the Joneses, pushes ordinary people into spending money they don't have on things they don't need to impress people they don't even know. So now that we understand the psychology behind why the average person struggles financially, let's talk about something even more eye-opening: the actual wealth gap between the average person and the truly wealthy. Because the difference isn't just about income. It's about an entirely different relationship with money that most people were never taught. The top 1% of Americans hold approximately 32% of all wealth in the United States. The top 10% control around 67% of total wealth. That means the bottom 90% of the population, the vast majority of working, earning, bill-paying Americans, are sharing just 33% of the nation's total wealth between them. These numbers are not just statistics. They represent a fundamentally different way that wealthy people think about and handle money compared to everyone else. Here's the key difference. The average person works for money and then spends it. The wealthy person works for money, keeps as much of it as possible, and then puts that money to work generating more money. This is the concept of assets versus liabilities. Wealthy people obsessively accumulate assets, things that put money into their pocket, like investments, real estate, and businesses. The average person unknowingly accumulates liabilities, things that take money out of their pocket, like depreciating cars, credit card debt, and unnecessary subscriptions. Robert Kiyosaki described this difference in Rich Dad, Poor Dad decades ago, and the data still proves it true today. The average person's net worth shrinks over time because of liabilities. The wealthy person's net worth grows automatically because their assets are constantly working and compounding in the background. So the question that every single person watching this video should be asking themselves right now is, how do I stop being average? Because average, as we have now proven with real numbers, is not okay. Average means living paycheck to paycheck. Average means retiring broke. Average means working your entire life and having almost nothing to show for it at the end. The good news is that escaping average does not require a six-figure salary. It does not require a lucky break or being born into the right family. It requires a shift in financial behavior, small, consistent, deliberate changes that compound powerfully over time. The first and most important step is paying yourself first. Before you pay rent, before you buy groceries, before you do anything else with your paycheck, a fixed percentage goes directly into savings or investments. Not what's left over at the end of the month, because as we've seen, nothing is left over at the end of the month for the average person. It has to come out first, automatically, without negotiation. Even starting with just 10% of your income changes your financial trajectory dramatically over time. The second step is ruthlessly attacking your debt, starting with the highest interest debt first. Every dollar sitting in credit card debt at 22% interest is costing you money every single day. Before you invest, before you upgrade your lifestyle, before you spend on anything non-essential, that high-interest debt needs to be eliminated. Because no investment in the world consistently returns 22% annually. Paying off high-interest debt is literally the best guaranteed return on your money that exists. The third step is learning the difference between assets and liabilities, and then making a conscious, deliberate decision to choose assets every single time you have spare money in your hands. This doesn't mean you need to buy real estate or start a business overnight. It can start as simply as opening an index fund account and putting $50 into it every single month. The stock market has historically returned an average of 7 to 10% annually over long periods. That means money invested consistently and left alone will double approximately every 7 to 10 years through the power of compound interest alone. The fourth and final step is protecting your income from lifestyle inflation. Every single time you get a raise, commit to saving at least 50% of that increase before your lifestyle has a chance to absorb it. This one habit alone separates people who build wealth from people who simply earn more money and stay broke at a higher level. Here is the truth that this entire video has been building toward. The average person is not broke because they don't earn enough. They are broke because nobody ever showed them the rules of the game. The wealthy play by a completely different set of rules. Rules around saving first, eliminating debt aggressively, buying assets, and letting compound interest do the heavy lifting over time. These rules are not secret. They are not complicated. But they require consistency, discipline, and the willingness to think differently than the majority of people around you. You watched this entire video. That already puts you ahead of average. Now the only question is, what are you going to do with what you just learned?